News Talk 610 AM and 102.1 FM. KBNU.
KBNU News Time is 4:05. I'm Bill Walter with this news update brought to you by Mount Logan Laundry. Sentencing for a 25-year-old Logan man convicted of assaulting a woman and strangling another man has been postponed. A judge continued the sentencing for Matthew Jester after the defendant began claiming he was under hypnosis. Jester participated in a virtual sentencing hearing in First District Court Monday morning from the Cache County Jail. He had previously pleaded guilty to aggravated assault, a third-degree felony. Jester told the court he was hypnotized against his will in 2018 and 19 after witnessing his friend's murder. He claimed to still be under the effects of the hypnosis, causing him sometimes to cramp up and scream in pain. He also rambled about being abused by jail guards, but did not provide any specific details. Judge Brandon Maynard expressed concern for Jester's health. He asked for a competency evaluation to determine whether the defendant comprehended what was taking place. Public Defender Joe Saxton, who previously represented Jester until the defendant said he was going to hire a new attorney, told the court Jester had been determined competent to stand trial previously. He told Judge Maynard he would file a request for a new examination. According to an arrest report, a Logan City police officer was called to a domestic dispute on August 7th. Jester had reportedly assaulted two family members. One of the victims said Jester had become agitated over money. He hugged the woman tightly until she was unable to breathe. He then grabbed her head with both hands and squeezed until she felt a lot of pain, according to the report. The second victim stated that he tried to remove Jester from the home after the defendant assaulted the woman. The two men began fighting. During the brawl, Jester wrapped his forearm around the man's neck and strangulated him to the point where he lost consciousness. Jester told officers he was trying to defend himself. He was highly intoxicated and later booked into jail. During Monday's hearing, Judge Maynard ordered Jester to remain incarcerated. He also scheduled him to appear again in court July 12th. KBNU News Time is 4:07. KBNU weather for tonight, mostly clear skies, overnight low in the mid-40s, and then a slight chance of showers and thunderstorms in the afternoon on Wednesday, warm around 80 degrees. Slight chance of showers Wednesday evening, then a slight chance of rain showers and a little bit windy conditions on Thursday, high temperature in the lower 70s. Right now it's 75 at KBNU. KBNU weather brought to you by Cache Valley Hearing and Audiology. Bring back the sounds you've been missing. Schedule a free hearing evaluation with Dr. Paul Danes at Cache Valley Hearing and Audiology.
Make laundry a snap with the large load washers and dryers at Mount Logan Laundry. Rather than 8 to 10 loads at home, get the job done in 1 or 2 with their 55 or 80-pound washers and 80-pound dryers that are perfect for sleeping bags, comforters, and other big items. Mount Logan Laundry has free Wi-Fi and drop-off service, plus they're open until midnight. Mount Logan Laundry really is the cleanest spot in town. Find them at 5th East and 9th North in Logan or in Brigham City on the corner of 1st East and 7th South.
KBNU News Time is 4:08. The building currently used by the Marine Corps Reserve's Toys for Tots is going to be raised in the future to make room for a new Cache Community Food Pantry warehouse. Although they have some time to find a new space, they are trying to find something with a little more room for the coming season. Food Pantry Executive Director Matt Whitaker said he has given the group all the room available. He's trying to raise funds for an 8,000 square foot warehouse that would use the space Toys for Tots is currently using. Toys for Tots began nationally in 1947, but they came to Cache Valley in 2010. Last year, they served a total of 6,850 children from Cache, Box Elder, Franklin, Rich, and Oneida counties. Each child received 4 toys, 2 books for starters. Every year, their toy campaign begins in October and goes until December 22nd. Carlton Brown, a former U.S. Marine, said right now their working space is 25 feet deep, 40 feet long. They would like to find something with double the space that has a working restroom with heating and air conditioning. He says it gets tight when they have volunteers, toys, and the Marines trying to get things packaged for their clientele. The space is also used for storing flags and other equipment for flag ceremonies. Police are investigating after a swastika was found scratched into the door of a Jewish community center in Salt Lake City. Shabbat Jewish Community Center Synagogue Rabbi Avremi Zippel tells KSL-TV that the symbol is not something one expects to see in 2021 and conveys a violent, hateful message to Jewish people. Salt Lake City police say that surveillance video of the front of the synagogue's building shows a person scratching the swastika into the door at around 2 a.m., but the video is too dark to see clearly. Police are investigating the incident as a hate crime. And Republican Congresswoman Liz Cheney is criticizing GOP colleagues for downplaying the January 6th riot and condoning former President Donald Trump's lies that the 2020 election was stolen. In TV interviews on Sunday, Cheney cautioned that there is no question an attack like January 6th could happen again if Trump's claims go unchecked. The Wyoming Republican has been ousted from House GOP leadership for challenging Trump, but she says she will continue to speak up on the dangers of undermining democracy and calls House GOP leaders complicit in the spreading of Trump's comments. House Republicans replaced Cheney with Congresswoman Elise Stefanik as their number 3 leader. KVNU News Time is 4:11. For more details on these and other stories, visit CacheValleyDaily.com.
Local news and the best talk. News Talk KVNU.
Hi, this is Dr. Monty Carlson from Hyde Park Dental. I have some very exciting news. Dr. Brad Bills and I are going to partner to help make Hyde Park Dental one of the premier dental practices in Cache Valley. Dr. Bills will bring his experience in many areas to Hyde Park Dental. He loves treating children and provides comfortable, pain-free dentistry to everybody. I'm thrilled to have Dr. Bills at Hyde Park Dental. I know you will come to love and appreciate him as I do.
Hi, this is Dr. Brad Bills. I am as excited as Dr. Carlson to be joining forces. Like Dr. Carlson, I have practiced dentistry for over 30 years in the Valley and love helping my patients be healthy and have fantastic smiles. I also love being able to offer laser dentistry. Treatment with a laser is fast, pain-free, and often eliminates the need for a shot and no numb mouth. The excellent care you have received through Dr. Carlson and myself will continue with even more fantastic services and care. Call us today at Hyde Park Dental to schedule an appointment. Dr. Carlson and I are excited to see you.
Meet me downtown. Meet me in downtown Logan.
Hi, this is Brent Wallace of Cache Valley Bank. We love supporting local business and are proud to support the new Center Street Market in downtown Logan, happening every Wednesday during the summer. The market opens at 8 a.m. and all of the merchants will be local businesses. Cache Valley Bank invites you to experience the open-air market. We hope to see you there. Cache Valley Bank, member FDIC.
Meet me downtown. Meet me in downtown Logan.
Did you know Memorial Day was originally called Decoration Day? Memorial Day is an American holiday observed the last Monday of May, honoring the men and women who died while serving in the U.S. military. Take a moment or two this Memorial Day to reflect and honor the generations who came before us. This message from Allen Mortuaries.
This is Jason Allen with Allen Mortuaries, serving Cache Valley for over 80 years. Then, now, always.
For the people.
We are waiting with bated breath for news from the Cache Republican Party meeting an executive committee tonight.
With Jason Williams.
And I'm really excited about this next segment. We have 2 guests here in studio. We're going to talk about something that we've talked about many times here on the show, but from a bit of a different angle.
Weekday afternoons from 4 till 6 on News Talk KVNU, 610 a.m. and 102 FM.
Welcome to KVNU's For the People. Tuesday, May 18th. I'm Jason Williams. Bill Walter here in the studio as well. Quite a lot happening on Capitol Hill today. We'll recap Interim Day This interim day is part of a regular schedule. Every month, lawmakers meet in a day or two of committee meetings and more for interim work. When you hear during the legislative session, we're going to, quote, send that to interim study, that's what that means. It means they're not going to vote on it in that 45-day session, but they're sending it to interim study so that committees can work on it throughout the summer. That's what's happening on several different fronts, including some hints, again, at tax reform, though the statement from leadership remains there's no appetite for a big, broad tax reform attempt like we saw in 2019, but rather small bits and pieces here and there, which I still argue is something to pay attention to. In fact, even more so, so that something doesn't slide through. This comes ahead of a special session, which will kick off tomorrow. Special session called by Governor Cox to deal with a boatload of money, basically. $1.5 billion from the federal government in the American Restoration Act, the CARES Act 2, basically, and $1.5 billion that the state will have to decide how it's going to spend. And that money comes, they've got half of it now, and they'll get the second half in the same time, 2022. And legislative leaders have said they want to put this towards long-term planning, long-term investment in infrastructure. They don't want to do a lot of things with this one-time money that they'll then have to figure out how to pay for when the money runs out. So that's going to be a lengthy debate. If you're curious how they can do this in one interim day, well, the way they do this is most of it's already been decided. There will be some debates. There will be some yay and nay voting. In the end, though, some kind of bill will pass, and it's very similar to the budgeting process, although the state budget takes most of the 45 days to actually complete and finalize and get a vote on. This bill, when it finally is voted on tomorrow, has been in the works for several weeks now, if not months. They knew the money was coming. So this doesn't have to be a bunch of revelations tomorrow, but it will be interesting for the public to hear for the first time where lawmakers are thinking this money should be spent. If you'd like to weigh in, by the way, you have up until about 8 p.m. tonight. The legislative session, special session, will be more in person than the legislative session was back in January, February, and half of March, but it is still virtual to some extent, and so they're still taking public comment from those who, if you want to go down and actually testify at a committee like you could during a regular session outside of a pandemic, that option will be available, but seating is going to be limited. They're still practicing, reduced gathering numbers there at the Capitol, although it's fully open to the public now, including tours, which I noticed we're back on. That was announced just today. But so masks are still required inside the Capitol complex, and in-person options are totally available. But you do have the option to comment and send an email, even make a phone call to your lawmaker ahead of tomorrow's special session. And you can do that via le.utah.gov. The comment period will close at 8 p.m. tonight. What few pieces of legislation there are there to comment on are not very detailed. And that's why it's important that everybody pay close attention to this. This is a lot of money. It's going to be invested, is the word they keep using, in one way or another. Utah already depends on federal money to a large extent. About 30% of the budget in the average year is federal funds. So this is a huge influx of cash. It's going to, I would guess, go mainly towards infrastructure and construction projects. There has been a big push to use some of the money to deal with homeless issues in some of the more urban areas of the state and even areas along the Wasatch Front where homelessness is a growing problem. In fact, I saw recently that lawmakers have been fond of saying forever that most of the homeless problem in Utah is in the Salt Lake area. That is no longer the case, actually, I learned last week. Weber County actually is seeing the highest numbers in homeless, and so some money will go towards things like that. I don't know what this even means, but several lawmakers have said they'd like to see a significant amount of money from this Restoration Act go towards the housing crisis here in Utah. home prices in some areas of Utah, rent in some areas of Utah is just unbelievable at this point. And most of that can be attributed to just a general hot market, but also a general shortage of housing in Utah as well, which leads us to the final thing lawmakers today have been hinting they'd like to see a good amount of money go to, addressing that housing crisis. But how? I mean, that's the big question on all of this. Not one single idea thrown out by any lawmaker in the last week or so as they've been ramping up for the special session has been a bad idea. I've seen, no frivolous spending proposed. I've seen no hokey, something for a buddy in the good old boy network, earmarking suggestions, anything like that. They're talking about important things, but the question remains how. If your goal is to address, say, the housing crunch in Utah, how do you throw money at that? I'm not saying it's not possible to throw money at that, but how do you do it? What's the mechanism that solves the problem? When it comes to some have proposed using some of the money for some sort of bonus for teachers, frontline healthcare workers, and more. That's a great idea. But if the overall requirement for anything to pass tomorrow in the special session is for it to be a long-term investment, giving money for a bonus for teachers or frontline healthcare workers based on what they've been through in the last year plus is a great idea. But could that money go in some way towards education that's going to be more of a long-term investment instead of a one-time bonus payout? These are the questions the lawmakers are going to be discussing tomorrow. So question for our listeners, throw this out here. Where do you think the money should go? I know a lot of people here in Utah, including all of our federal representatives, our federal delegation, voted in lockstep. All of them voted against this Restoration Act, despite the fact that it is the second round of something that passed easily during the Trump years. They voted against it this year, said that we'd spent enough trying to buoy the economy and get things back to normal. But the bill passed. Democrats have their majority in the House, and there was enough in the Senate to get it through the budgetary process, which doesn't require a 60-vote threshold with the filibuster. And so the bill passed, signed by the president. The money has been spent. And as Speaker Brad Wilson, Republican from South Jordan, I think, area, he said, look, if Utah doesn't accept this money, we can turn it down. But if we don't accept this money, it's just going to get divvied up to the other states. So his words were Utah will cash the check. They will accept their, quote, fair share and decide how this money is going to be spent. So where do you think it should go? 753-5868. Also coming up on the show today, our ongoing effort to just get excited, even if it isn't fully here yet, to get excited about normal returning, spotlighting events. Many things didn't happen last year. It was a big disappointment all across the valley, throughout northern Utah, throughout the entire state and the West. From county fairs to those kick off the summer festivals, everything was just missing last year. This year, not so much, although there are some changes. For example, Hot Dogs and Hot Wheels in Hiram is just going to be Hot Wheels this year for public safety reasons, but it's happening at least. We talked last week about many of the things that were happening with Black and White Days, which was last Saturday. That was able to actually be a thing, and it drew a crowd. Well, coming up, something that if you've never had a chance to attend, it's a really opportunity, and it's very county fair-like, although it comes in the spring. It's known as Idaho Days. It takes place in Preston every year, except it didn't last year. Well, they're back, and we'll be speaking with some of the organizers later on in the show on how they plan to make this a safe event, something that families feel comfortable coming to, but also make it as close to normal as possible, what people expect from this springtime county fair-like celebration, Idaho Days. That's coming up later on. 753-5868. The question again for our listeners, lawmakers are going to spend the money. $1.5 billion from the federal government for the state legislature to decide what to do with. $1.1 billion coming to cities and counties directly, although the legislature still has to divvy that up. They don't get to decide how it's spent as much. And a total of $2.8 billion And tomorrow, in a special session, lawmakers will finalize a plan for how this money is going to be, as leadership has said, invested in Utah's future. What would be a good investment in your mind? 753-5868. We'll be back right after this.
Metal Mart is everyone's metal store, and they're ready to help. So let's get building. Metal Mart can help with most of your metal goods, big or small. So remember, if it's metal, call Metal Mart. From square tube, steel pipe, rebar, sheet metal, plate, metal roofing, angle iron, and so much more, you just need to call or come on in and see us. One of the questions Metal Mart gets asked quite frequently is, what if I just need a couple of pieces? Well, my friends, that is why Metal Mart is everyone's metal store. Metal Mart is built to serve the smallest of orders to large truckload orders, industrial buyers to DIYers. Metal Mart is ready to serve. So bring your metal needs to Metal Mart, and we'll get you started on the right foot with your metal project. With almost 30 years of serving all types of customers, Metal Mart knows how to get you what you need. Call today. Metal Mart in Logan, 435-363-9001. Online at metalmart.biz. So when you need metal, go to everyone's metal store. Metal Mart. See you soon.
Hey, it's Al Lewis. Happy spring. I love this beautiful weather, but if you struggle with CPAP, you may not be getting the sleep you need to go outside and enjoy it. Fortunately, now there's Inspire, a sleep apnea treatment that works inside your body with just the click of a remote. That's right, a button. No mask, no hose, just sleep. Learn more at InspireSleep.com. Inspire is not for everyone. Talk to your doctor to see if it's right for you, and review important safety information at InspireSleep.com.
It's a time of tremendous uncertainty for everyone, but some things haven't changed. Stomach cancer is still a leading cause of cancer death worldwide. More than 1 million people will be diagnosed this year alone, and it's vital to know your risks and learn ways to prevent it. It's also critical for cancer patients to protect themselves from all viruses. No Stomach for Cancer encourages you to listen to medical experts to understand your risks. Find out more about COVID-19 at cancer.gov and learn more about your risks for stomach cancer at nostomachforcancer.org.
Welcome back to KVN News for the People. This is feeling pretty summer out there today. I had to turn the air conditioner on, finally, in the car.
And the funny thing is, by the time July rolls around, a 76-degree day will feel pretty nice, you know, pretty refreshing.
Longing for those cooler 76-degree temperatures. Yeah, it does. It takes you a while to acclimate to the heat, but it's... I had an opportunity over the weekend to get out and do a little hiking in the mountains. Well, it was barely hiking, but still, it was a dirt path and in the mountains.
A little bit of incline.
Not that far up there. But it's amazing to see how quickly everything has started to dry out.
Yeah.
It was a very short spring as far as
it doesn't have that May look.
Yeah. Usually. This is, it's funny. I pay attention to this plant because of Darren Perry, our friend Darren Perry. It was president of the Northwestern Band of the Shoshone Tribe, the man leading this effort to fundraise a couple $1 million for the Multicultural Center on the site of the Bear River Massacre. He was a congressional candidate last year, frequent guest on our show, but also author. He wrote a book with some Shoshone history in it. And it jumps back and forth between history and recipes, these ancient. And so I was reminded of this when I read an article in the Salt Lake Tribune over the weekend about a discovery in Bears Ears, the Bears Ears area, where they found these something that wasn't previously thought to be the case, but these evidence of what could have been ancient greenhouses, basically, where plants that were used for medicinal purposes especially were grown so that they didn't have to make a trek every time they needed some. So they're actually growing them in locations where they didn't grow naturally. I thought that was very cool, but it reminded me of a story that I remember Darren sharing, I think during one of our breaks while he was here on the show years ago. and it was about the balsam root plant. And if you aren't familiar with that, it's a big broadleaf plant. They're light in color, like a light green, almost grayish green, but they have these sunflower-like blossoms, and they're really beautiful, and they are only beautiful from about the end of April to the end of May most years, maybe into June, but most of them are already almost done. The plant stays, for the year, and they spread like wildflowers. But and the roots were used for medicinal purposes. In fact, the Shoshone tribe knew how to dig the plant up, take a few of the roots for their medicinal use, and then put the plant back and not kill the plant. This was something that old-time gardeners will tell you, too, is pretty easy to do. It's a pretty sturdy plant, but it's a dry, arid conditioned plant. It's designed to grow in an area where there's very little water. So its blooming season is very short. It goes from bud to blossom to seed in a matter of weeks. But this year, it's about 3 weeks instead of the usual 6. So, yeah, it's pretty dry out there. But, I don't know, kind of hard to complain about the temperatures. Could use a little more rain. I don't think, speaking of this little trip I took, I don't think I've seen, this time of year, Bill, I don't think I've seen rivers this low. They're not low, but usually rivers coming out of the canyons here are roaring.
Hear them for miles around.
Yeah, and usually you're not
maybe a mile. But
yeah, and they're up a bit. I know people who aren't comfortable with having their dogs in the river even this year. I tell you, mine have been. And that's also an indicator of how not typical this year is water-wise, because normally this time of year the rivers are off limits for the time being for the dogs.
This time of year you hear warnings, pets, small children, keep them far away from the banks because the waters are moving extremely fast. But
they are elevated.
In a drought.
They are elevated a bit, so still be careful, But yeah, my dogs have been in the river. It's and last year, the year before that, no, off limits until at least the end of June. But yeah, signs of the drought out there already, I think, and it you can see. We spoke about this on the show a couple of weeks ago. Some of the concern that areas of certain rivers, as they come down into the valley and start to go out across the valley floor, there are areas that are going to run dry this year. And that can be very bad for fish populations. So I know anglers are paying close attention to this as well. And when it comes to the amount of water coming down out of the mountains, there's not really a lot we can do. You can't go up there and turn something off to meter the flow out.
Turn on the snow machine up there. Yeah,
it just melts until it's gone. And so a friend of mine did also report. Now, I don't think this road is technically open yet. So I'm not sure how far he got up to see this, but he did say that the Tony Grove Road, which is oftentimes one of the last roads around here to open each year, takes that long for all the snow to melt off and for road repairs to happen, and then they finally open it. It's still not open, but the reports that I got and some photos sent my way, the snow is already gone.
Wow.
So, yeah, it's going to be a dry year. We'll steal for it at least. But as far as water recommendations go, there aren't any restrictions in place yet, but the state is asking everyone to pay close attention to this scientifically informed water map. And it's a map that basically shows you, based on where you live, how often you really need to be watering each week. And the entirety of northern Utah, Box Elder County, Cache County, and Rich County, right now is in the color code for once a week.
Oh,
so
okay.
The recommendation right now from the state that if you have a sprinkler system for your yard, things like that, that doesn't need to be running more than once a week. And every little bit we can do right now.
We just got our sprinkler system going at our new place. I'll have to. Where's that? Do you have a website we can check?
Utah WaterWise is where I saw it today, but it's a state website. I'm not sure which.
Okay. Just Google Utah WaterWise.
Yeah, Utah WaterWise has a lot of this stuff. And
just so we're not overdoing it, because we're, trying to encourage the lawn, but there is a drought.
Once a week is what they're saying here in Cache Valley. I would assume that will change soon. As warm as things are, as dry as things already are, I would assume their recommendation will go up to twice a week, within the next month. But right now they're saying for all of northern Utah, Box Elder County, Cache County, and Rich County, your lawn and flower gardens only need it once a week at this time of year, even as warm and dry as it's been. So check it out. UtahWaterWise.org is a great resource on this. Also, where you can find out, Jeannie Simmons told us about this last Monday, but that free service where you can have university extension researchers are actually the ones that run this program. They'll come to your yard. This is free. They'll come to your yard, and they will do an analysis of your watering systems or system, sprinkler system, flower garden systems, drip systems, whatever you have, and they'll make some recommendations for you for efficiency. Basically things you can adjust, change, add, take away that will keep your yard nice looking and healthy, but at the same time use less water. That is a free service. There's a link to that in the story at cachevalleydaily.com from our interview with Jeannie Simmons last week. I've linked to that on our Facebook page again. So 753-5868. Would love to hear from listeners on this. Tomorrow, lawmakers are going to be deciding what to do with billions of dollars that have come Utah's way through the federal government's American Restoration Act, the CARES Act 2, basically. They have to have this finalized by the end of day tomorrow, and then it will kick in. Half of the money is here. The second half will come at the same time in 2022. But how the money is divvied up and spent, or at least half of that $2.8 billion, the lawmakers get to decide what to do with, will be set in stone by midnight tomorrow night at the latest. So how do you think they should spend it? They're soliciting feedback on this via le.utah.gov. I'd love to hear from our listeners here on the show, 753-5868. This is KVN News for the People, and we'll be back after these headlines with KVN News' Bill Walter.
Thank you, Jason. KVNU News Time is 4:37. The news is brought to you by U&I Furniture. Attorneys are working out a possible plea deal for a 24-year-old highwayman accused of sexually abusing children and facing a possible life sentence in prison. Thomas Durham faces similar allegations in both Cache and Davis counties. Durham participated in a virtual hearing in 1st District Court this morning. He was previously charged with aggravated sexual abuse of a child, a first-degree felony, and sex abuse of a child, a second-degree felony. He's also been charged in 2nd District Court with 4 counts of sex abuse of a child and 1 count of forcible sex abuse. According to court records, the case in Cache County allegedly occurred in 2015. The charges in Davis County reportedly occurred over several years between 2011 and 2014. Durham has pleaded not guilty to both cases. Salt Lake City police are asking travelers to check carry-on bags before coming to the airport after several guns were found at the security checkpoint. In April, TSA officers found 4 guns in travelers' bags on a single morning. Salt Lake City International Airport officials found 71 guns inside bags in 2020. That put the airport in the top 10 in the country for guns found at a checkpoint. A TSA official told Congress last week that the agency is dealing with a serious increase in guns inside bags. Even if a traveler brings a gun by mistake, the fines can run several $1,000s. And the Idaho State Board of Education approved the budgets for the state's 4-year higher education institutions on Monday, keeping tuitions mostly flat and including few significant increases in fees and other costs. The Moscow Pullman Daily News reports it's the second year the board has opted not to raise tuition at the University of Idaho, Idaho State University, or Boise State University for Idaho students seeking a bachelor's degree. Brian Foisey, the vice president for finance and administration at the University of Idaho, says his school is also keeping tuition flat for out-of-state undergraduates and for graduate students. KBNU News Time is 4:39.
UNI Furniture works hard at stocking up on what customers want. If you shop their store and see something you like, you can purchase it and take it home. UNI has a great selection of popular styles of sectionals and bedroom sets. And if you're looking for a chair, they have hundreds of chairs. UNI also wants you to know the technology of beds has changed so much. So if you're sleeping on an old mattress, you might consider a new one. And UNI has the full line of Maloof line of mattresses, sheets, pillows, and adjustable bases. If you're furniture shopping, you'll find a better buy at UNI Furniture, downtown Logan.
KBNU weather for tonight, mostly clear skies, overnight low in the mid-40s. A slight chance of showers and thunderstorms developing in the afternoon tomorrow. Partly cloudy and warm, around 80 degrees. Southwest winds 10 to 20 miles an hour in the afternoon. Slight chance of rain showers and windy on Thursday, high in the lower 70s. It's been to 78 this afternoon. It's 76 right now at KBNU. KBNU weather is brought to you by Polylift. Attention homeowners, you may have noticed the ground shift after your foundation has been poured, causing your house to sink or settle. Protect your investment from issues before they happen. Polylift concrete raising and piering will stabilize, lift, and eliminate further settling by using Magnum piering products to save you big money down the road. Polylift concrete raising and piering are the foundation lifting experts. Visit poly-lift.com to schedule your free assessment or call or text 435-999-9309. Polylift is locally owned and operated. For more details on these and other stories, visit CashValleyDaily.com. Let's check Wall Street now with Edward Jones.
This is Senior Branch Office Administrator Monique Benson, bringing you the Daily Financial Market Report for May 18th on behalf of Daryl Arnell and Edward Jones. Stocks finished lower Tuesday as better than as expected earnings announcements were countered by a softer than expected housing report. Global equities were mixed, though Asian markets posted solid gains. The real estate and equity sectors outperformed today, while energy was lagging. Treasury yields were a little changed as bond markets continued to reflect the tug-of-war between higher inflation expectations and the ongoing Fed stimulus. U.S. equities closed lower today. The Dow Jones was down 267 points at 34,061. The NASDAQ closed down 75 points at 13,304. The S&P 500 closed down 35 points at 4,128. In stocks of local interest, Home Depot was down $3.26 to $316.75. Lowe's Companies was down $1.38 to $192.75. Nucor was down $2.85 to $103.47. PepsiCo was down 66 cents to $145.51. R.R. Donnelley & Sons was up 40 cents to $5.17. Thermo Fisher was down $1.69 to $454.61. Zions Bank Corp was down $2.02 to $58.25, and Northrop Grumman was down $4.25 to $368.62. In commodity markets, the price of crude oil was down 69 cents at $65.58, and the spot price of gold was up $2.70 to $1,870.30. This has been the Financial Market Report for May 18th, brought to you on behalf of Edward Jones, member SIPC, serving individual investors with personalized attention and financial advice with offices in Providence, Logan, and Smithfield. Daily commentary is also located on our website at edwardjones.com.
Better weather, longer days, and the urge to get outside. Spring has sprung. Hi, I'm Jay Broadbent with Alpine Home Medical, and we'd love to help you scoot into spring and enjoy $200 off our high-quality scooters. Bringing wellness home is our motto, so also enjoy $200 off our best-selling lift chairs. For locations and information, visit us at alpinehomemedical.com.
Alpine Home Medical, we bring wellness home.
Visit alpinehomemedical.com.
Adams Wealth Advisors has a team covering all aspects of your financial life. Expect specific guidance from advisors that adhere to principles of honesty, professionalism, and integrity. Adams Wealth Advisors has over a decade of service, earning the trust of the individuals they proudly serve.
This is Craig Adams. At Adams Wealth Advisors, we are here to help you receive peace of mind whether you've done a lot of planning or a little planning. Count on our team at Adams Wealth Advisors for honesty, professionalism, and integrity.
Visit AdamsWealthAdvisors.com. That's AdamsWealthAdvisors.com to schedule a time with an advisor today.
Welcome back to KVN News for the people. Everybody like my my allergy season voice?
Yeah, it's very, very, very raspy.
I've been told that it makes my radio voice better. But
sometimes colds
it's
do that.
Unpleasant. Yeah, a cold. Sometimes when I get a cold, my voice will actually change a bit. And I've been told before, oh, you should do voiceover work. You should read audiobooks.
As long as I can always have allergies.
But I don't want to have a cold. I'll be honest with you, though, I would prefer a cold to this because a cold ends. A cold, a couple days maybe, and then it's over. This allergy season, and I'm concerned because usually what hits me the worst is when the cottonwood trees really get going.
Yeah,
and that's
not even close.
That's a month off still. Yeah, I haven't even checked today. I got tired of checking to see what it is. What pollen is currently at 1,400% or something like that.
I just know my Weather Channel app on my phone says allergies in your area are very high.
Oh,
so for whatever it is,
it's pretty nasty out there. I'll be honest. Sneezing, itchy, watery eyes, and then whatever's going on with my voice here. It sort of feels like, I explained to Bill, it feels like those days after a cold, when you've recovered from the cold, but you can tell your throat was just raked over the coals for a few days, coughing. That's how it feels. It's super pleasant. So thanks for letting me whine about that for a second.
And isn't it? It's funny. I mean, like, because of COVID and because, so many people were taking precautions, wearing masks, it was a record low year for influenza this past winter.
I know that I have not been sick for more than a year, which honestly, I can't remember a year when I didn't pick up at least a cold or a flu, usually from the film festival, but that was, of course, canceled in 2021. So,
or it was held on Zoom.
It was virtual,
virtual, yeah.
Yeah, I
watch it at home.
I didn't even try, but that was my experience with a virtual threshold for me. I go to the film festival for the movies. It's the fun part, but at least that's what I thought. And I realized that it's a whole experience that I go for, because when it came down to paying $25 per movie, because they didn't lower the price, $25 per movie to watch them at home, I just didn't.
You would have had to have really wanted to see that movie.
So I think going up there, being a part of the crowd, and actually sitting in the theaters, seeing the crowd reaction to the films too, definitely what makes it worth it. So eye-opener there.
Yeah, it was the full experience before.
Yeah,
which I would imagine they'll get back to this year.
That's Andy and I talked about that a little bit Friday on the movie show. There are all these pundits, I guess you'd say, in the entertainment world, just like the political world, and they make predictions and say, here's what, that's their job. That's what they get paid to do, surprisingly, is say, here's what, I think will happen. And oftentimes they're wrong. But a lot of the projections right now, I've heard this over and over and over. The movie theater is dead. These big chains, they'll be the last to still be around. But you're going to see the art house cinemas go first. Most of them have,
I guess
sadly.
Sixplex in Ogden just closed permanently.
Yeah, and there are, there was, I think it was AMC Lowe's declared bankruptcy last year. Although, they aren't going to go away. They're just restructuring through that bankruptcy. But so I'm not saying it wasn't a tough year, and I'm not saying that movie theater chains, including Megaplex here in Cache Valley, don't have every reason right in front of them to really step up, and they're long overdue in doing that as far as, making it a more pleasant experience to go, making it a more fun, being more creative in general. Right now, they're still kind of pretending that whole Movie Pass thing never happened, but it did. And eventually, if they wait long enough, someone else is going to figure out how to do the Movie Pass thing, but actually make it viable, which Movie Pass didn't do. They were irresponsible about it. But that's opened everyone's eyes to a different movie-going experience. And if you've noticed, since Movie Pass folded, the big theater chains have just been sitting back going, what Movie Pass? Never heard of it. That's dumb on their part. And so I'm not saying that they don't have some work cut out for them and that they aren't being a little belligerent in some cases and willingly fooling themselves in others in order to stay viable, because nothing lasts forever. I don't think that 2020 killed them. I don't think you're going to see. I think people are going to be so eager to have movies to go see again that they're just going to line up for things they maybe normally wouldn't have. And I think we saw a little bit of that already over last weekend. Not that the big opener last weekend, Those Who See Me Dead, wasn't a good movie. It was, and the book was great. But I watched it on HBO Max. And so I don't think that people are quite ready yet, but I think they will be. So I don't agree with the pundits saying that the entertainment experience is forever changed. But my experience, and again, like I said, my experience with Sundance this year, I wasn't willing to fork over $25 for a movie and watch it at home. I am willing to do that when I can go down and be a part of the whole experience, sit in the theater, be there as the rest of the audience reacts, be there for the Q&A with the directors and writers and stars of the show afterwards to find out more about how it was made. That whole experience of the film festival is fun for me. Just buying the ticket and watching it on the big screen at home wasn't enough for me for the price. So I think there are a lot of lessons here. Which ones stick really remains to be seen. But I don't think the movie theater industry is as troubled as a lot of people are predicting. Although I do think it's more troubled than a lot of the big chains think. So somewhere in between those two. With that in mind, as Andy discussed on the movie show last week, the summer movie calendar is really starting to solidify and fill up quickly. So the production companies who get final say on this have decided, that it's time to put some of these movies out. Many of them they've been sitting on for more than a year now. So we'll see pretty soon if people are ready to get back into the theaters. But with that in mind, here in Utah, this is actually going to be discussed possibly tomorrow during the legislative special session. It's definitely going to be discussed during future debates over sales tax exemptions, tax reform ideas, small ones or big ones. But something that might come up tomorrow, as I mentioned at the start of the show, lawmakers said they want this CARES Act 2 money. It's called the American Restoration Act, but it's basically the same thing that happened last year at this time through legislative action at the federal level to aid states. And this is just round 2. And some of this $2.8 billion lawmakers have to divvy up tomorrow in the special session. There have been hints that they should throw it at some of the existent economic development efforts that are out there. And that got a lot of people flared up, at least online today, because there's still some big questions about this. This all started about 2 years ago when the Governor's Office of Economic Development couldn't quantify a return on investment for millions of dollars in taxpayer money that had been thrown at economic development projects. And so let me first say, I'm a defender of this. I'm a defender of cities, counties, the state, and the federal government throwing money at things to bolster the economy. We know it works. We know that incentives along these lines can really boost up certain industries. If a state knows they want to boost a certain industry that would be best for their economy, throwing some money at it right at the get-go is one good way to do it. So I'm not against this idea. And a lot of times these Governor's Office of Economic Development incentives come in the form of a tax cut. So basically they say you come here and do business, whether you are say you make some component, come here, locate in Utah, we'll give you a tax cut for the first 5 years. If you are making a movie, Come here. Georgia is the king of this right now, by the way, but Utah does a lot of it. Come here. We'll give you some tax cuts and save you some money on making the film, and you just film it in Utah and then put something about Utah tourism in the credits at the end. And it's great advertising. It's great for tourism, all that stuff. I'm not opposed to it. But when the Governor's Office of Economic Development was asked, what did we get for this? How do we know? I think it was one lawmaker said to a representative of GOED, did we spend too much or too little? It was a simple question, basically saying, should we up the amount of money that goes towards this, attract more production companies into Utah to film? Because, again, it's just free advertising for the state's tourism industry, which is huge. The lawmaker wanted to know if we should spend more on that. Another lawmaker sitting right next to her wanted to know if we were spending too much on that. And the representative from the Governor's Office of Economic Development basically said, oh, we don't know. We've never asked. We've never taken a look at it. So that is going to be discussed tomorrow. Incentives, not just for the film industry, but also a lot of the tax incentives that are out there. They're not on the chopping block tomorrow. No legislation to make any changes to tax code is going to be debated and discussed. But there's going to be a push from some lawmakers, they always do it, to carve out a bit here and a bit there from this money as it's divided up tomorrow in special session for something that benefits their county or their district or their buddies or an industry that they really like and constituents really like, or that some really effective lobbyist has gotten their ear on. And so they're going to be saying, well, how about 100,000 here, about 200,000 here, how about 10,000 there? And a lot of it's going to fall under this economic development umbrella. But again, it makes me nervous, and I support it because it tends to work. But we don't really know here in Utah whether we're spending the right amount on that kind of thing or whether we're spending too much. It could be that if we doubled the amount of taxpayer dollars that go towards economic development, we could see wages skyrocket and the number of jobs skyrocket and life just get a lot easier for a lot of people. It also could be that we cut the amount of money we're spending on this stuff in half and see the exact same result that we're seeing with the amount we're spending now. My point is the state should be able to answer these questions, and we can't. And yet tomorrow you're going to see this play out again, where we're talking about putting money towards these things, having no idea if it's a smart investment, the right dollar amount, too little, too large. We don't know. So basically, lawmakers rely on what lobbyists are telling them is needed. And lobbyists have their own agendas. 753-5868. KVNU's For the People returns right after this.
Attention homeowners, you may have noticed the ground shift after your foundation has been poured, causing your house to sink or settle. Protect your investment from issues before they happen. Polylift Concrete Raising and Piering will stabilize, lift, and eliminate further settling by using Magnum Piering products to save you big money down the road. Polylift Concrete Raising and Piering are the foundation lifting experts. Visit poly-lift.com to schedule your free assessment or call or text 435-999-9309. Polylift is locally owned and operated.
Hi, this is Gordon Deal. Wednesday on This Morning, America's First News, how the politics of COVID continue to be visible. We'll take you through a vaccination map that mirrors the way the nation voted last November. Also, with new mask guidance from the CDC, companies are speeding up their plans to bring workers back to the office. Hear what some are saying. And the people afraid they forgot how to drive during lockdowns. Wednesday on This Morning, America's First News. From 4 to 6 on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102 FM. Your station for news and talk.
My Shiro doesn't always wear a cape, but she always has time for a hug, a smile, for going the extra mile. My Shiro stretches every dollar, puts in long hours, puts others first. But now it's your time, Mom. When you're ready to retire, we want you to be able to enjoy it. Get free tips to help boost your retirement savings now at aceyourretirement.org/Shiro.
A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Every Saturday morning at 9, you get information to prepare you with retirement solutions for the journey ahead. It's Smart Money Ascent with Clayton Alexander of Teton Wealth Group.
How do we solve that number one fear or that number one concern? Make sure you never run out of money.
And Teton Wealth Group's Ethan Miller.
Then, when you leave Teton, when you leave our offices, you're going to have a plan that you're both excited about.
It's where your retirement questions are answered. Smart Money Ascent, Saturday mornings at 9 on News Talk KVNU, 102 FM and 610 AM.
Coming up in hour 2 of today's show, something you might not have known. Did you know Franklin City is the oldest city in Idaho? It is. Oldest city in Idaho. It's also the location of Idaho Days each year, except last year. But they're back. Idaho Days is happening. Love the details on how they're pulling this off and what you can expect at the big event celebrating Idaho at large just across the border from us here in Cache Valley. That's coming up in hour 2 with organizers of Idaho Days. Also a petition aiming to stop Logan City from making any changes to the location or venue of the current fire department. Why this is all happening and what Logan City has to say. That's coming up in hour 2 of today's show right after this here on KVNU Logan.